Welcome, in front of me is the new Asus Zenfone 11 Ultra, and today I'll go over unboxing along with a quick look at the device itself. So, jumping straight into it, let's cut our way in. And before I get started with any kind of specifications, I'm going to mention that this device was released in the 2024 March 14th year, so I'm going to obviously be basing this and everything I have to say about it as a device that has been recently released. Here we go, getting our way in. We have some very unreadable text for me. The camera, at least on the camera, is a little bit more easier to read. So eco-friendly material, eco-link, no, eco-ink. There we go. So whatever, it's just some mumbo jumbo corporate bullshit, just to try to fit with the current times. Now inside we have a case. So super eco-friendly plastic wrap, right? Super eco-friendly plastic case. For people that don't know that I'm being very sarcastic right now. Then we get our very eco-friendly lithium battery in here, along with another device that another company released. There we go. Let's boot it up, and while it's going to be booting up, I'm gonna also get a look at what else is in the box. Come on. There we go. And outside of that, we only have a charging cable, which is Type-C to Type-C, so both ends Type-C, which means that if you want to utilize this cable, you also need to have a Type-C charger. But it's Type-C, so if you have a normal charger, Type-A, you can still use it. It just might not charge the device as fast as the device is able to be charged. Now, taking a look at the device itself, let's start off with the display. So the display right here is a 6.78 inch display running a resolution of 1080 by 2400, so that's pretty good. It's a LTPO AMOLED display, 144 Hz refresh rate, HDR10, so not really certified, and a peak brightness of 2500 whopping nits. It also boasts an 88% screen to body ratio with 388 pixels per inch. So for a device, a flagship device, because this is basically what this is, the screen wise, it's pretty good. Now let's finish up. Let's make it light so we can see the bezels. And there we go. Seriously? A timer for gestures? Are you kidding me? There we go. Okay, so now you can actually see the full display. Taking off the cover. There we go. So there we go. You can now see the bezels. They are very symmetrical, which makes it actually look nice. The weight, actually, one thing that I want to point out, which won't be visible on the camera, but it's something that it's kind of like felt right off the bat, is the way the device is made. The subtle chamfered edges right here makes it really nice to hold. You don't feel sharp edges, it just lays nicely in your hand and doesn't feel like a brick in your hand. So that is actually a very nice thing that I want to say about this. It feels super nice to hold in hand, and considering you're going to be doing that quite a lot, it's good that this part is just kind of like really nice. Okay, now continuing on, let's talk about the cameras. So I'm gonna flip it over, and it doesn't look like we have much of a camera setup right here, at least not much compared to other devices. So the main sensor right here is a 50 megapixel f1.9 24mm wide lens. Then we got a 32 megapixel f2.4 65mm telephoto lens with 3 times optical zoom, and then 13 megapixel f2.2 13mm 120 degree ultra wide lens. And with those cameras you can record at 8K at 24 frames, and at 4K you can do 30 and 60, and 1080p again 3060, along with slow motion of 120 and 240. 720 supports 480 slow motion. And then if we flip it over to the front, we have a hole punch camera, which is barely visible, very small. Open up settings just so it's a bit more visible, so it's not taking too much space. And that houses a 32 megapixel f2.5 22mm wide lens that can record videos at 1080p 30 frames. Okay, so with the cameras out of the way, let's now talk about the internals of this device that are powering it. And first of all, the battery right here is a 5500 mAh battery. In terms of wired charging, it supports 65 watts of charging, and it also does a wireless charging at 15 watts. So it gives you versatility, which is pretty nice considering this is a flagship device. And with flagship device, you also get flagship grade processor, being the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, which is the newest one you can get right now in any kind of phone. And the base entry of this device comes with 256 gigs of storage and 12 gigs of RAM, and you can spec it up to another option, which is 512 with 16 gigs of RAM. That being said, I believe the first one, the cheaper one, the 256 with 12, will be good enough for basically everyone. So if you need more storage, unfortunately there is no expandable storage, so you will need to splurge out more for the half a terabyte with also 16 gigs of RAM. You can just upgrade storage and not the RAM, so you would need to automatically pay for something that isn't needed. 12 gigs on Android is plenty enough to get you through basically everything, and 16 is just an absolute overkill. Let's be honest, right now phones have for no reason more RAM than computers do, and specifically like if you compare to Apple products, those dogshit laptops come with like 8 gigs of RAM. They're trying to claim that it's enough. On those laptops, I won't say 8 gigs is enough if you want to do massive like multitasking, but phone with a flat display like this one, a small one, won't be doing too much multitasking, so you don't need 16 gigs of RAM. So just wanted to point that out. And one last thing about the storage right here. In both cases, it comes with UFS 4.0 storage type, which means that it's going to be a super fast storage, which is very needed if you want to specifically record videos at 8K. Now, continuing on, let's talk about the build quality of this device. So we have Cornell Gorilla Glass Victus 2 at the front, then at the back, we have glass back, though it's not like Gorilla Glass Victus or anything like that. And we also have aluminum frame all around. We have volume rockers and power button on the right side. Then at the top, we just have a couple antennas and clean side, more antennas, you can kind of see. And then at the bottom, we have something that actually surprised me. I didn't even know that it's here. It's a headphone jack, for people that don't know what this hole is. Then we got a speaker, our SIM tray. I'm grabbing my tool if I can find it somewhere. Oh, there we go. See it? There we go. So popping out that tray. There's no expandable storage like I mentioned, but it allows you to use dual SIM cards, so that's a plus. And next to that, we have our Type-C charging port. And that's about it. Now, one thing that I want to point out is the cameras right here aren't necessarily like anything super special. Though, like, the phone is a bit chunky, I'm not gonna lie. And this literal camera bump allows you to grip the phone right here. So it is quite substantial for such a phone, I would say. And one thing that I also want to point out that I don't know why manufacturers do this. This is not symmetrically placed. If they would have shifted a little bit to the middle or maybe made it a little bit more like a visor kind of shape like Google Pixels have, you wouldn't have such a egregious wobble. This is absolutely insane. This is the biggest wobble I have seen ever. And putting on the case does not negate this problem. As you can see, it's still there. So again, it just kind of unnecessary. They could have done something to prevent this. This bump could have been smaller or placed in a better orientation so it didn't give you this absolute wobble on the device. I guess if you don't want your device to wobble, you might as well place it screen down, but at that point it's not like you can use it. And the problem with wobble is the fact that you want to use the device without having it in your hand. So doing something like right here, obviously not very fun. So don't know why this hasn't been thought out by basically every manufacturer so far outside of just Google. Okay, now one last thing to mention is we do have under display fingerprint sensor and everything that we expect from a flagship device. So Wi-Fi 802.11, tri-bands, which kind of, you know, that's why we have so many antennas all around the device. 5G optics, lossless codec right here, and basically, like I said, everything that you'd expect from this kind of device. And last thing that I didn't mention that I will do right now is the price tag of this device. And this phone comes at about $1,000. Now it's 1,000 euros, and supposedly $899, though keep in mind dollars don't include price tags, don't include tax, so it's going to be a little bit more. Now for that price tag you get a decent device with flagship processor, and most of the components here being, or all of them being, basically flagship grade. The only thing that is I would say underperforming compared to some like outliers, I would say, is the charging speed being at 65 watts. It's more typical to like Samsung devices which come with this kind of charging speed nowadays, but it does fall apart by some margin compared to some other devices. For instance, like OnePlus, which supports 120 watts and comes with a charger in a box. So not only do you not get a charger here, it's basically half the charging speed of OnePlus. And that's primarily what's going to be probably the more of a problem, I would say, that Asus charges more for their brand, I would say, more than they should be, similar to what Samsung does. But Asus is not like a renowned name. They've been dropping ball recently. They've been taking L left and right. So not really sure why they still continuously over like price their devices, because not only the Zenfone right now is overpriced, which previously it was more affordable. Like this is a over $1,000 with tax device, while the previous Zenphones were more closer to mid-range, I would say, compared to this, like right now being just the basically flagship price. And also, if you have the choice, why would you go for Asus Zenfone compared to something like OnePlus? Now there is one thing that I want to mention that I'm not sure, but Asus might, like I said, I'm not sure, might be one of those manufacturers that will give you a 5-year software update. In this case, obviously that might be more beneficial to some people that don't want to swap their devices as often and care deeply about security of their device, like the security patches and just software and Android updates, all of that. Obviously in this case, this device would be better priced, but if you're just planning to use this device for 2 years like most people do, then this is kind of not really worth it as much, I would say. But anyway, with that being said, hopefully you found this video helpful, and if you did, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.